Hey everyone. I've had a few people reach out to me and ask how we're going to be reopening lightning kicks once we're able to. How we're going to make sure that people are safe, how we're going to make sure that people are able to train but not be exposed to a greater risk than absolutely necessary. And that was a great question, and one that I'm glad people are thinking about now, presumably quite a bit before we're actually able to open up. So I did a lot of research, spent about a day looking at different things online and trying to find some good guidance. And by far the best one that I found was put out by Gracie Barra. Now, I am in no way affiliated with Gracie Barra. But after seeing it and how clear it was, how organized it was, how detailed, and kind of hitting all the check marks that I was looking for in a good plan, I reached out to Professor Draculino, who is the head instructor of Gracie Barra Texas, and just as an aside, one of my all-time favorite jiu-jitsu fighters and one of the first jiu-jitsu people that I started kind of following and watching their videos and trying to learn from online. And I reached out to him, and he was gracious enough to let me use their kind of guide to make this video, hopefully to educate and at least give some ideas for schools who are getting ready to open, or for our students looking at some of the things we might be doing at Lightning Kicks to help make sure that you're safe when we get back to training. So again, this is put out by Gracie Barra. I have permission from Professor Draculino to go over this and kind of use their template. And I just want to again say thank you to that organization and the professor for allowing me to use this. So one of the first slides that they have, again, this isn't like legal advice. This is just some potential guidance in order to help open up your school as safely as possible when you're able to. A few things that we got to make sure that we're keeping in mind. Whether you think that this is 100% valid or not, that the virus is as dangerous as the media is portraying or not, we want to make sure that everybody's safe, that everybody's comfortable, and that people can train and improve their lives without incurring any additional risk. So we want to make sure that everybody is safe, and if this is as scary as it appears to be, that we're able to train and not make things worse for our community. And we want to make sure that our students are able to train and are able to improve in jiu-jitsu and get better. And we can only do this by working and trusting each other and making sure that we follow through on the things that we say we're going to do. This is set up off of the federal recommendations. It's going to be a little bit different based on the state and kind of the city that you live in, so things will occur at the local level. This is built off of the federal guidelines. There's no way to know what each state's going to do, when they're going to do it, that sort of thing. So this is kind of the best way to at least get a good foundation set up. So there are three basic phases for this. We have our at-home training, where most of us are at right now, and this is where we're more or less stuck at home. We can't meet as a group. We're making sure that we stay far away. Few people are leaving their homes except to go to work or maybe to get a little bit of a walk. That's where we're at right now. Once businesses are able to begin opening up again, gyms are able to begin opening up again, BJJ Academies, that's when we're going to go into the non-contact training. And that is where we're going to have limited numbers of people to train, and we're going to make sure that people are safe. And again, these are guidelines. We don't know 100% what we're going to be doing at Lightning Kicks yet, but these are the recommendations from the Gracie Barra organization. And then once we're able to kind of go into the phase 3, where we're able to have some contact and interaction. Then we'll be going to the minimum contact training. And then the recommendation there is approximately 1 month after things start opening up and the numbers continue to decline, and things aren't getting worse. So at-home training, non-contract training, and minimum contact training. All right, with just a few examples here, and we'll highlight the differences in each. The biggest one, at-home training, that's just where you're kind of at home and you're training via YouTube videos, Zoom, Google Hangout, that sort of stuff. Non-contact training, they recommend limiting class sizes to 10 participants or less. That, of course, is going to vary a little bit based on the size of your academy. But there's going to be some distancing there, and the biggest difference between non-contact and minimum contact, we can have more people able to train. Instead of each person working on their own, they'll be able to pair up, and it'll be a little bit more relaxed as far as things like using the bathroom and that sort of stuff. All right, and we'll break down each of those in turn. But main thing, strict social distancing and elevated sanitation protocols. All right, that's what the main two things are going to be as we move forward. So some things that we want to make sure we're doing from a sanitation point. First, we want to make sure that we're cleaning every surface very, very thoroughly after every single class. Not after every session, so every like 3 or 4 hour block, but after every class. We want to make sure that everything is very, very clean. The best way to do this, set up a cleaning schedule, make sure you know who's going to be cleaning what, and then have an accountability system, something you can check off, sign, initial, whatever you want to do. But this needs to happen. We need to make sure that we have a clean area. Waiting until 3 classes in a row are finished before cleaning, not going to be good enough. We also want to make sure that we're training everybody on how to clean. All right, so you can ask my mom what she thinks is clean, often is different than what I think is clean. So we want to make sure that everybody's cleaning in a way that's going to ensure people are going to be as safe as possible. All right, so kind of having maybe a training session for the people who are going to be responsible for this, and making sure that everybody knows what's expected of them. If you don't have a kind of a rule about wearing sandals or shoes when not on the mats, I highly recommend you implement one. Once you step on the mats, it's easy to kind of hop off and run to the bathroom in your bare feet. We want to make sure that we're wearing sandals is the most convenient ones, or some kind of shoes whenever we step off the mats. Make sure that everybody sanitizes their hands frequently. All right, so washing your hands is the best, but that's not always super convenient. So having some spots where there's hand sanitizer available so people can kind of clean their hands whenever they're touching things or about to touch things is going to be really, really important. Making sure, just like with all the surfaces, we clean the mats and any gear that's been used after every single class. And a good idea is to open up some windows or find some way to have as much air circulation as you can, instead of kind of having that air get stagnant. And then also making sure that you change the air conditioning filters frequently, so that they can do a good job and help to keep the clean air flowing. So the rest of this is going to focus more on the social distancing aspect of it. So right now what we're doing is offering virtual classes. So for us, I know through the Go Squad out of Miami, and then kind of our affiliate schools with Academy of Martial Arts and Monument, and then Lightning Kicks here in Kalamazoo, we're holding Zoom classes twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm lucky to join a few other jiu-jitsu friends of mine with my daughter on Monday, and we get a little bit of training in. That's the virtual classes. That's what we're doing right now. When we're legally permitted, it's going to be okay to start training on site, but there are some guidelines we want to make sure are happening. We want to make sure that we start off with non-contact BJJ. It's not good enough to show up and get right back into class. All right, we're going to need to change things up a little bit and kind of ease our way back into training. One thing that's important to remember, anyone who lives in the same household, they are in contact with each other constantly throughout the day. They are the only people who are okay to train together. All right, so for everyone else, we're going to want to make sure that we have a training dummy, or we're just going to have to kind of make do with the air. The only people who should start off training together are people who live in the same household, because they've already been exposed to each other multiple times. A good way to make sure that everyone keeps their distance is to set up some training zones, and make sure that those zones are 6 feet away. A good recommended training zone is about 6 feet by 6 feet, and I have a diagram that we can show you on the next slide to help break down what that looks like. We also want to make sure we're limiting class sizes. Now again, this is going to vary a little bit school to school, academy to academy, based on the layout and how much space you have. All right, but we want to limit how many people are available, and every place is a little bit different. I know at Lightning Kicks we have like a little iPad that people sign into. For this time period, we're gonna want to change that so people don't have to interact with more things than absolutely necessary. A good way to do this is to set up a check-in system where students can basically reserve their spot and register for coming in ahead of time, so that they don't have to sign up at an iPad, touch it, leave, and then the next person touches it and gets whatever funk off of the previous person's hand. Another way that you could do this is to message or email your professor, and then they can record who attended class, so we can kind of keep track of those things. So this is a diagram kind of illustrating one way of training. So you have the instructor with their demo area, a way to broadcast and record what's being demonstrated, so people who are not able to come to class can still train at home. And then you've got your separate training sections. Each one of these would hold one person and their training dummy. It's going to be really, really helpful if each person can bring in their own training dummy. There's lots of videos online. If you guys aren't able to find one, let me know, and we can get one posted. I know Professor Tom Lin made one. But if you bring in your own dummy, it's going to be a lot easier to practice and do the drills with this dummy versus having to make do just with the air. Another thing that can be really helpful is to bring in your own bottled water. We want to, again, limit how many things people are making contact with. And so if we each bring in a water bottle, that means we're not having to make contact with sinks and water fountains and that sort of thing. And that can just help prevent spreading any illnesses around. And again, along with that, avoiding bathrooms. All right. So of course, things are going to happen. People need to use the bathroom. That's how it is. But if you can encourage your students to go to the bathroom before class, before they come to the academy, then that just limits additional contact. It can be a really good idea to check temperature of staff and of students before class. Anyone who is running a fever, just have them sit out or head home and then watch from home. Anyone who's at risk, whether they're immunocompromised or are currently ill or whatever else, they can attend at-home virtual classes where they can see what the instructor's doing, and then just drill it and practice it at home. And it is a really good idea to require team members to wear protective masks. During this part of it, especially, there won't be any live goes or anything like that. There will be some drilling, you'll be breathing a little heavy, but wearing a mask will just help to prevent people kind of coughing and spreading germs all over the place, or sneezing and getting things spread. Just adds that extra little barrier. Students should come fully dressed, prepared, ready to go, to minimize the use of the locker rooms. I know at Lightning Kicks we like hug and shake hands whenever people come in. That's one of the things that's gonna have to be put on pause, where we'll wave instead, or we can bow to each other or whatever else, but we can't come into contact with one another. And instead of lining up right next to each other and bowing in, we'll have people go to training spots, and then they can bow in from there. And that's a good way, again, just to help make sure that people are being distant from one another. In order to make sure everything's getting cleaned and sanitized properly between classes, if you don't have a little bit of a buffer window, you're going to want to set one of those up. So if you have one class that ends at 7 o'clock and then your next class starts right at 7 o'clock, that's not going to work. There's no way to clean and sanitize and make sure things are prepared. So you want to build in at least a 15-minute window between classes so you can clean all the surfaces, the mats, the equipment, all that stuff like we talked about at the beginning of the video. As you already mentioned, instead of checking in at the iPad or however you're using it, just message the instructor or sign up ahead of time. And instead of having everyone kind of congregate into the lobby, it'll be a really good idea if you can have like an instructor or a coach out to kind of keep people away from each other, shuffle people in, have people exit, while keeping those distances as appropriate between classes. One of the big times when it can get crowded is when one class is coming in as another class is getting ready to leave, and we want to help smooth line that and facilitate easy departures and entrances for people where they're not coming into contact with each other. So those are the main things, and I think this is a very comprehensive and well-informed set of procedures you can do to help make sure that everybody is being safe and able to come in and train as best as possible. It does a great job of helping us transition into no contact classes, and then once we're able to, into minimal contact classes. The biggest thing I want to highlight, and we will jump there real quick, with the minimum contact classes, anyone can train with one other partner. So during no contact, if you live with the same person, it's okay to use each other as like a training dummy. With minimum contact, when we show up, we'll get paired up. You'll head to kind of your training spot, and then that's the one person you're training with the rest of the time. And then that's going to be your partner the entire class. All right. And then the next class, you might have the same person, you might have somebody different, but we want to make sure that we have just one partner the entire class there. Another thing that is going to be a really good idea, especially since we're probably going to be limiting the number of people who can train at a time, is to have people have designated days, or have them come in and train maybe twice a week and then watch the other two classes at home. So we have jiu-jitsu classes Monday through Thursday for like our traditional jiu-jitsu classes. You might have a Tuesday, Thursday time where you can come in and train, and then the other half of your academy might have Monday, Wednesday, all right, or however you want to set it up. But kind of staggering who's able to train when can also help to minimize the risk of people being exposed more than absolutely necessary. All right, so again, I want to thank Gracie Barra for organizing this. I want to thank Professor Draculino for giving me permission to use this as we kind of plan ahead and think about what we're going to be doing in order to help us get schools back up and running when we're able to. And if you have any questions, leave them below. I will answer them as best I can, or at least give my opinion on them as best I can. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching.